Today we are taking a look at Eastgate Mall, located in Union Township, Claremont County, Ohio, about 25 minutes east of Cincinnati. Eastgate Mall was built in the mid to late 70s, coinciding with the completion of the stretch of I-275, allowing cars easy access to Union Township from all areas of greater Cincinnati. Looking to transform Eastgate into a retail mecca for the area, Eastgate Mall officially opened in 1980 to much fanfare. The 80s and 90s saw the 920,000 square foot mall at its heyday, drawing hundreds of thousands of shoppers every year. Unfortunately, as has been the fate of most indoor malls, online and other alternate shopping options have diminished its popularity in recent years. Today we take a look at modern-day Eastgate Mall to see how it's held up 38 years after its grand opening. The mall's overall design is that of a one-story structure, which has a center court that branches out to different wings, each anchored by a different department store. Their food court currently has very few vacancies, which is always a good sign. Their offerings are your basic mall food court fare, including pizza, Chinese, and subs. They did, however, recently lose their food court sit-down restaurant and bar, Buffalo Wings and Rings. I feel it's always good for a mall to have a sit-down option for customers who just need to take a break from shopping for a little bit. I personally always enjoyed sitting by the mall-facing windows and people watching while having a good meal. Hopefully they'll find a replacement for Buffalo Wings and Rings soon and won't let the vacancy stay for too long. One of the stores that I do tend to frequent at Eastgate Mall is FYE. FYE has changed a lot over the years, whereas before it used to focus on music and movies, now it's more about apparel and gadgets and toys. Their CD and movie section seems to shrink a little bit more every time I visit, which is a little bit depressing. Their pricing for their used merchandise can be pretty reasonable at times, but honestly the pricing for their new merchandise can be quite outrageous. Regardless, I still really do enjoy having a place to browse music and movies while at the mall. For the most part, Eastgate Mall seems to have your average mall store offerings such as lids and Claire's and just random cell phone carriers. They do seem to have an inordinate amount of jewelry and shoe stores here. It almost feels like half the stores here are one of the two. Their Bath & Bodyworks recently renovated and expanded, adding their sister store, White Barn, next door. It's definitely an upgrade. Both stores are really nice. The Jcpenney Wing of the mall is probably the least vacated wing in the mall. They've done a really nice job of developing this wing into the mall's strongest, and it makes sense because it's probably the most heavily trafficked area of the mall. Jcpenney has been one of Eastgate Mall's anchor stores since the very beginning, and it's held up well over the years. On top of the normal department store's sales offerings of clothing and appliances, this location also has a Sephora makeup location within it, as well as a salon, portrait studio, and optical center. The store is well kept up, clean, and organized. You'd never guess that it's going on 38 years old. I would have to say Jcpenney is by far Eastgate's strongest anchor store. The Dillard's wing of the mall has a good amount of empty storefronts, but I'd still say it's not the deadest area in the mall. A lot of the newly renovated stores moved from this wing to the more heavily populated Jcpenney wing in the past couple years, which would explain the majority of the vacancies. There still are a few mall staples down this way though, like Spencer's and Payless Shoes. Originally a McAlpin's department store which opened at Eastgate Mall in 1992, Dillard's took over around 1998 when McAlpin's went under. In recent years, this location has become a Dillard's clearance center. Basically meaning all the overstock clothing from all other Dillard's locations that won't sell get brought here and stuffed on racks and sold at a pretty big discount. I mean, the store itself feels really old and it smells like mildew and probably hasn't been kept up with at all in recent years. And the racks are just overstuffed with merchandise. You can get some pretty good deals here, but you really do have to go through so much. This place isn't meant for the casual shopper. It's meant for someone with a couple hours to kill and a hardcore dedication to getting some good discounts. The other side of the Dillard's wing is mainly dedicated to activities. Blackout offers batting cages and basketball. There's a virtual reality machine, indoor glow-in-the-dark golf, things that can help in entertaining kids and occupying a couple hours at the same time. Victoria's Secret was also recently renovated and relocated to the Jcpenney Wing, partially occupying the space Aeropostale had been at before closing a while back. H&M opened a huge location in the center court a couple years ago in hopes of drawing more shoppers to the mall. I can't attest to whether they did or not, but I can say that the store is probably one of the nicer ones in the Cincinnati area. Heading down the Kohl's wing of the mall, there are some stores, but unfortunately there are also a couple more vacancies. Kohl's opened in Eastgate Mall in 1995. In my opinion, this location is not one of the better Kohl's. I've heard it's been remodeled in the past couple years, but it still somehow seems dated. It's a two-story store attached to the one-story mall, so the second floor doesn't really have any exits except for the escalator or elevators. I know it's a strange thing to complain about, but it also feels like they are overstuffed with product at this store. It's as if they stock it as if it's a much bigger store. And between the overstocked shelves and the no immediate exit, my claustrophobia kicks in and I just have to get out of there when I feel like I'm stuck on the second floor. To be fair, I'm not a huge fan of Kohl's to begin with. I never seem to find anything there that I'm really satisfied with and end up walking out empty-handed more times than not. Now, I know people who swear by the store and know how to utilize all the coupons and offers and get some really good deals, but that's just not been my experience. Out of all the aforementioned shoe stores in this mall, Journeys is probably my favorite. They always seem to have a really cool selection of stuff, and they have really good sales from time to time. The staff is really nice here too. Next we enter what's probably the most vacated part of the mall, which is the Sears Wing, which is kind of fitting because Sears as a company is kind of on its way out and ending anyway, so it would make sense that that would be the deadest area of the mall. Vacancies outnumber stores probably 2-1 here, and it's kind of sad. What's even sadder is Eastgate's sad excuse for an arcade. They titled it an amazing space. That's gotta be sarcastic. This place is filled with outdated stuff. Most of it's out of order. There are some vintage stuff, but just the feeling of the little arcade area just makes it really kind of sad. You don't want to be in there. Sears is another anchor store that has been open at Eastgate Mall since the beginning. The company as a whole has been on a severe decline for a while now, closing dozens of stores last year, and they're already set to close even more this year. The mall's owners have already bought back the Sears Eastgate property and are currently leasing it back to the company in preparation for the store's nearly inevitable eventual closing. The mall is rumored to be developing several redevelopment scenarios, including different retail and dining options, so that they're ready for when it happens. Honestly, I think overall it will be great for the mall. Heading out of the Sears Wing, stores start appearing again once you get closer to center court. A really cool hobby shop has popped up recently, bringing gamers and comic book fans back to the mall. And what mall would be complete without a cookie stand and Annie Ann's? Both always seem to have a pretty steady flow of customers. I do enjoy coming to Eastgate Mall. It reminds me of how malls used to be. It still feels like a mall out of the 90s, but therein lies some of its issues. It's just very outdated overall. Don't get me wrong, they are trying to revitalize it and add some new life to it, and it's very admirable, and I really hope they succeed in keeping it alive and thriving. Industry experts predict that as many as a quarter of all malls in the US will close in the next couple years. They also say they feel Eastgate is vulnerable, but that its smaller size in comparison to other malls might be an advantage in an era of smaller stores still thriving.